Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the latest book of rules I've read, the Dungeons & Dragons Rules Cyclopedia, printed in 1991. I got this at a yard sale a few weeks ago for a total of $1. Admittedly, it's not in the best shape. I had to tape a page, and I think I may have to do a little bit more repair, a couple of others. But I always wanted a copy of it, because by the time I figured out that it sounded interesting, it was out of print. And the cheapest one I could find online was $42. So I'm happy to have this, considered a very important component of my collection. And I realize that there are many gamers that consider this book to be almost a holy text, divine gaming inspiration from on high. So what I'm about to say may not make some of them happy, because I'm going to come out with the negative first. This game is amazing. The tone this game takes made me laugh out loud. My wife looking at me like, why is my husband laughing while he's reading a gaming book? Because while I'm reading this, all I could think of, all I could hear in my head was the comic book guy from The Simpsons. Because there's this tone of authoritative writ, as though this book were carved in stone like the Ten Commandments. There are even passages in there where the words cannot and don't are in italics to emphasize that you can't do this. There's this condescending attitude that just made me chuckle. There are arbitrary rules in here that make no sense in any context, within the game or outside the game. They're presented to you as a whole thing. Here it is. This is the way it is. You do not get to discuss this or change it. You could not write a book like this now. A game like this could not be made in the year 2009, for which I'm glad. But I'm also glad that it exists. More specific things about the game, like the actual components that I thought were kind of absurd, are alignment languages. When I first heard of alignment languages in 1978, I thought it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard of. And 2009, my opinion hasn't changed. And in 1991, it was just as dumb as it was in 1978. The concept that because you hold a certain moral view of the universe, you know a language, is just absurd. I never used them. Not as a GM, not as a player. And it wasn't like I just said, no, this rule doesn't exist in my game. It was just that no one I ever gamed with ever used them. They thought they were dumb. No one put them on their character sheet. It was stupid. We all just ignored it and moved on with our lives. In the game, this particular version, the D&D Rules Cyclopedia, you can play humans, thieves, warriors, fighters, clerics, or magic users. You can also, if you want, play a dwarf class, an elf class, or a halfling class. These aren't races, they're classes. It's a little silly, but I think they were moving into the concept of playing non-humans slowly, and this is how they did it. That isn't dumb. That isn't negative. It's a little strange, but I can live with it. What's absurd is that these things had incredibly low level caps. In this game, if you're a human playing one of those 4 classes I just mentioned, you can go from 1st level to 36th level. This game covers the range of 1 to 36. But if you're a dwarf, you get to go to level 12. I guess this is supposed to be some sort of balance. Now, I've never been one to bow too deeply at the altar of balance. And I will freely admit that the level advancement rules in the 3rd edition of D&D are a pain in the butt and an awkward mechanism. And I'm hoping that Pathfinder comes up with a better design when they release their bestiary next month. But capping your character's class at 12 as a step towards balance? That's just silly. So those are some of the things I found in this game that made no sense to me, that I didn't much like. Then there were some things that I did. This is one-stop shopping. This book holds everything you need to play a campaign from 1st to 36th level. It's got your GM's information, it's got your player information, it's got monsters, it's even got part of a campaign setting in there. This one book in 1991 cost $25. You had everything you need to play the campaign. That's cool. All you needed was paper, pencils, and some dice, and you were good to go. That's good gaming value for your dollar. Absolutely wonderful. I like the fact that they were introducing skills that didn't exist in the previous edition. That's cool, and they had a very similar feel in a lot of ways to the eventual D20 mechanic that was used in 3rd edition. I like the fact that the combat weapons are a very base, simple level of damage for people who have no real training in them. So anybody can pick up a weapon and swing it. But unless you're really trained in it, it's nothing much more than a club, regardless if it's a sword or a battle axe or a stick, because you've got no training. And as you increase your training, the mechanism is a little awkward for doing that, but as you do it, you do more damage, you can have special maneuvers. It's a really wonderful idea that I wish had been incorporated into 3rd edition. I know that I've been playing with that idea for about a year now, and there's a guy online named Keith Davies, and he and I have been going back and forth online about coming up with something that incorporates this idea into 3.5. Because the current kind of all or nothing aspect of the game bugs us. Every weapon should have a base damage, and as you get better, as the person that uses the weapon gets more skill, that's why the weapon should do more damage or have more features. Now, I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade. This is a great game. This is an awesome bit of gaming history. It is a stepping stone towards what I frankly consider to be a better version of the game in 3.5 and Pathfinder. But I like this book. It made me smile. It brought back memories. It reminded me what it was like to game back in 1978, even if I had started out in the AD&D Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game and not this one. I'm glad I got it in my collection. I will freely loan it to any of my friends who want to give it a look, but I am going to want it back because I'm not ever going to get rid of this book.